Hi, this is Sheila Stromberg, Notorious SHE. I am doing a tutorial today on a second method of placing scales for knitting scale mail. I have a couple patterns that are going to be coming out soon that use scale mail. So if you haven't ever worked scale mail before, it looks like this. It's basically just these little tiny scales made out of metal. People use them for like making chainmail or, armor, but I'm using them for knitting because, I mean, they look so cool. So I have two patterns that are going to be using the method that I'm going to show you today. So this is for a pair of gloves that I have that are for the character Kili for my ebook on hob mitts, it's called. And so, I don't know, they're just so cool. Like, look at how beautiful that is. So if you are working, these gloves are for, the pattern is called Gimli. My son saw the ones I made for myself and he just needed a pair, so I worked him up a little pair. So this pattern for Gimli is actually, I'm going to put it as a free pattern. So if you like it, you can go and give it a try. See if you like scale mail before you go and, spend money on one of my paid patterns that have the scales in them. So I hope you guys like them. I really love knitting with them. They're really fun, and I mean, they're so cool. Come on, they're like the best thing. So I'm going to show you how to place scales using this method. I have a different method if I'm working it with finer weight yarn. So you can see there's another tutorial on my channel that does that if you want to take a look at it. It's for, the pattern is for Galadriel. So take a look at that if you want to see a different method. So what we're going to do today, so you can see that for this pattern for Kili, the scales go all the way around the work and then start to work just a couple on the front side. These ones I only worked just on the top because obviously you don't want it on the palm of your hand. Look how tiny these are. My son has like the smallest hands. He's 6, but his hands, I swear, like they're so tiny. It's adorable. But anyways, so this one, the method is the same for placing the scales, but make sure you check which chart for which pattern you're using, because the charts are going to be a little bit different for the little ones or for the big ones. Okay, so I'm going to get going. This edge that I have is for the smaller version, for the child's version. So if you are working that one, then your work will look like this. If you're working the larger version, you'll actually have ribbing underneath the first set of scales. So just make sure you follow the pattern that you're working. Okay, so I'm going to get started. So the charts will tell you where to place scales. I'm just going to show you how to place them. Make sure you check which chart you're using because both of the patterns use a different chart. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and knit one normally, and then okay, so now I'm getting ready to start the chart. So to put in a scale for on a purl side of the work, we put the needle in as if to purl, pick up a scale, stick it on your needle. So it's a little harder to get with like a larger needle. So 7s is as big as I could get to go through these scales. So then you just treat it like a normal purl. You stick your needle through both, yarn over, and then draw the loop through the scale and off of the loop on your left hand needle, and your scale will just be placed there. And then we purl one, and then we're going to place another scale. Put your needle in as if to purl, put the scale on as if to purl, yarn over, draw it through the scale, draw it through the stitch, and then off. The nice thing about doing this in purl is that it really secures the scales down so that they're not flopping all around. So it's a pretty good way to do it. So we'll go ahead and place another scale. And we're just going to scale one, purl one all the way till the end. If you have a hard time getting the scale or getting the needle through the scale, it kind of, you get better at it as you go. I found that if I had a hard time pulling it through, if I just slid down to like the tip of the needle, it was easier. So try that if you're having a hard time. Oh, and then the last stitch I'll knit. So that's what the first little row looks like. They kind of are laying over each other at first. They will spread out a little bit, especially when you put them on. There is negative ease written into both of these patterns. So they will stretch out and just lay a little bit more how you want them. Also, one thing I noticed when working scale mail is that the scales, they really need a firmer fabric than I normally would do. The yarn that I'm using is Cascade Yarn Highland Duo, which is actually an Aran weight, but I'm knitting it on a size 7s because they really need a firm fabric underneath the scale for it to sit properly. Otherwise, they're just like flopping around all over the place. So you knit a little tighter than you normally would with this yarn. That's why I'm going to say 7. Normally I'd be on, you know, what, 8 or 9 for these. So the second row of both charts is the same. You just will knit all the stitches. And that's going to help the work also lay flat and not get all curling around. And then I also have another row of knit, but I'm going to just skip that for this tutorial. So make sure you just follow your chart. You'll have a scaled row, and then you're going to have 2 knit rows in between the next scaled row. So the next scaled row, pretend I knit another row because I'm not going to do that right now. So the next row, basically what we're doing is staggering the stitches. So you can see I placed the scale on this first stitch. So we're going to purl that one instead of placing a scale, and then place the scale here. So this has to be in multiples of 4 for the chart to work out, 4 plus 1. And then the scales will tile exactly how you want. If you put like 3 stitches in between it, it's not going to work. So just make sure that you follow the amount. If you have like your gauge is a lot different than mine, you can try screwing around with the scale chart and maybe put more knit rows or less knit rows in between, or place them, you know, a little further apart, but you have to place them in like multiples of 2 so that we have the stitch in between. So you could have potentially 3 stitches in between. So you're still going to be in the middle of where the next tile or scale would be. So you could have 1 stitch in between, or you can have 3, but you couldn't have 2, or else things just don't work out. They don't, it doesn't look good. I've tried it. Don't do it. So yeah, that's basically all there is to placing the scales on a purl. And they just, see how nicely they lay like in between each other, and it looks so cool. I just love it. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Make sure that you check the pattern so that you are casting on the right number of stitches and working the correct chart. But okay, yeah, it's not very hard. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Okay, thanks. Bye.